So if you have crossed the Royal Gorge Bridge, you know it can be breathtaking and slightly terrifying.
At the same time, turns out others agree. The suspension bridge was just named one of the scariest in the world.
Crossing a bridge is meant to be a momentary passage, a simple step from one place to another. But around the world, some bridges transform that ordinary act into a confrontation with fear itself. Suspended over abyssal depths, battered by violent winds, or haunted by tragic histories,
this is the highest suspension bridge in Europe. They say that to cross it, you need nerves as strong as the steel cables that support it.
these structures test the limits of human courage. These are not just bridges, they are trials. Welcome to the 15 most dangerous bridges around the world. Royal Gorge Bridge, Colorado, USA. When you step onto the Royal Gorge Bridge, the first thing you feel is how exposed your body is. There are no solid walls, only railings and open grating beneath your shoes. You can see straight through the deck to the canyon floor far below. The drop is close to 1,000 feet. The Arkansas River at the bottom looks small. But you understand immediately that falling would mean instant death. Walking forward requires focus. Wind moves through the canyon in strong bursts and pushes against your legs and torso. The bridge moves just enough that you can feel it through the soles of your shoes. It is not violent movement, but it is constant, and your body notices every change. Many visitors stop within the first few steps. Some grip the railing tightly and breathe slowly. Others turn around without saying anything. Park staff are trained to assist people who freeze or panic. This happens often enough that it is expected. The height affects people differently, but even those who are comfortable with heights report feeling scared here. Looking down is optional but difficult to avoid. The open deck makes the view unavoidable. Phones and hats have fallen through the grating over the years, and there is no recovery. Workers have reported losing tools during maintenance and watching them disappear without sound. Knowing this makes the space under your feet feel more real. Lightning storms, sudden wind gusts, and occasional wildfires all make this bridge far more dangerous than it first appears. Severe weather can arrive quickly and without much warning, leaving little time to react. In 2013, a powerful wildfire swept through the area and destroyed most of the wooden deck. The steel support towers remained standing, but the walking surface collapsed and fell into the canyon below. This damage forced a long closure while crews worked to rebuild the structure. This event clearly showed that natural threats are not rare and continue to pose serious risks year after year. Crossing the Royal Gorge Bridge requires control of breathing, steady movement, and attention to balance from start to finish. Mount Titlis Cliff, Walk, Switzerland. Reaching the Mount Titlis. Cliff walk places physical strain on the body before the crossing even begins. The bridge is located more than 10,000 feet above sea level near the summit of Mount Titlis in the Swiss Alps. At this altitude, the air contains less oxygen, and many visitors notice shortness of breath, faster heart rate, and mild dizziness even before stepping onto the bridge. The cliff walk spans a deep gap between rock faces that drop sharply into snow-covered slopes and crevasses. Below the bridge, the terrain falls hundreds of feet into areas filled with ice, loose rock, and steep gradients where recovery from a fall would not be possible. The bridge itself is narrow, roughly 3 feet wide, and constructed with metal grating that allows a clear view straight down. When you step onto the bridge, the temperature becomes immediately noticeable. Even in warmer months, conditions at this elevation are cold. Wind passes freely across the exposed walkway, and there is no shelter once you are on it. Gusts can arrive suddenly and push against your body with enough force that you must lean slightly forward to stay balanced. Weather changes here are fast and unpredictable. Clouds can roll in within minutes, reducing visibility to a few feet. Visitors have reported being caught mid-crossing when fog closed in, making it difficult to see either end of the bridge. In these situations, staff have had to guide people back verbally because visual orientation was lost. Ice is a common hazard. Despite maintenance, thin layers of ice can form quickly on the grating, especially in shaded areas. There have been incidents where visitors slipped and fell against the side barriers. While the railings prevented falls, injuries such as sprains and bruises have occurred. In extreme cases, alpine rescue teams have been called when visitors could not continue due to panic or injury. Wind remains the most persistent risk. The bridge is designed to move slightly to absorb force, and that movement is noticeable through your feet. The cables vibrate under tension during strong gusts, and the sound of wind passing through metal becomes constant. Some days, authorities close the bridge entirely after wind speeds exceed safe limits. Standing still is difficult because cold stiffens muscles and reduces grip strength. Gloves help, but numb fingers make holding the railing harder. Moving slowly becomes necessary, but slow movement increases time spent exposed to wind and cold. Langkawi Skybridge, Malaysia. The Langkawi Skybridge is located near the top of Gunung Mat Chinkang on Langkawi Island and sits more than 2,000 feet above sea level. Reaching it requires a steep cable car ride that already exposes passengers to height and wind. Once you step out, the bridge is immediately visible, curving across open air above forested slopes. The bridge crosses a deep valley covered in dense tropical rainforest. The ground below drops sharply and is uneven, filled with cliffs, trees, and steep rock faces. A fall from the bridge would involve hundreds of feet of vertical drop with no possibility of survival. The curved design changes how distance is perceived. From many points, you cannot see the full length of the bridge, which makes judging progress difficult. Sections of the walkway include glass panels that allow a clear view downward. Many visitors hesitate or refuse to step onto these panels after seeing the drop beneath them. Wind is present most days due to elevation and open exposure. Even moderate wind creates movement that can be felt underfoot. During stronger winds, staff limit access or close the bridge entirely. There have been periods when the bridge remained closed for months due to structural maintenance or weather-related concerns. In 2012, the bridge was closed after structural components required major repairs. Engineers identified issues with support elements that needed replacement. While no collapse occurred, the closure reinforced the understanding that the bridge operates in a demanding environment and requires constant monitoring. Visitors have experienced panic attacks on the bridge and required assistance to return. The width allows two-way traffic, but passing others can feel uncomfortable due to limited space. Looking outward or downward can increase dizziness, especially for those sensitive to height. The Langkawi Skybridge demands steady footing and attention. The danger comes from height, wind, weather, and the difficulty of evacuation in an emergency. Once on the bridge, your only option is to continue carefully until reaching solid ground again. Hussaini Hanging Bridge, Pakistan. The Hussaini Hanging Bridge crosses the Hunza River in northern Pakistan, an area known for steep terrain and glacial runoff. The river below is fast-moving, cold, and filled with rocks carried down from higher elevations. Falling into it would likely result in severe injury or death due to impact and strong currents. The bridge is made of wooden planks tied together with rope and supported by cables. Many planks are uneven or missing, leaving wide gaps that require careful stepping. There are no solid side rails here, only rope lines run along the sides, and these are not reliable for bearing weight. When you step onto the bridge, movement is immediate. The entire structure sways with each step. Wind increases the movement and can push the bridge sideways. When more than one person is on the bridge, the motion becomes harder to predict. There have been multiple reported accidents on the bridge over the years. People have slipped, fallen through gaps, or lost balance and fallen into the river. Local rescue options are limited, and reaching someone in the water is extremely difficult due to the river speed and cold temperatures. Locals use the bridge out of necessity, often carrying goods or guiding animals. Visitors lack this experience and feel the instability immediately. Some people cross by crawling to lower their center of gravity. Others turn back after only a few steps. The sound of the river is loud and constant. The bridge creaks under load, and ropes stretch slightly as weight shifts. There is no safe place to stop or rest. Standing still causes increased swaying, while moving requires precise footing. This bridge offers no safety margin. The danger is direct and visible, and survival depends on balance, focus, and steady movement across a structure that provides minimal support. 7 Mile Bridge, Florida, USA. The 7 Mile Bridge connects the Florida Keys across open water in the Atlantic Ocean and Gulf of Mexico. It stretches for more than 6 miles with no land in between. On both sides, the water is deep and exposed to wind and waves. Driving onto the bridge creates immediate isolation. There are no shoulders in many sections, and stopping is limited. During normal conditions, the bridge is safe, but weather changes can make it dangerous quickly. Strong crosswinds affect vehicle control, especially for high-profile vehicles. During storms, rain reduces visibility, and standing water can form on the roadway. Waves have been known to strike the underside of the bridge during severe weather. The original railway bridge, built in the early 20th century, was heavily damaged during the 1935 Labor Day hurricane. Sections collapsed, and trains were swept into the water, killing many people. Portions of that old structure still stand beside the modern bridge. In recent decades, accidents have occurred during storms when vehicles lost control and struck guardrails. During hurricanes, authorities close the bridge because emergency response is limited, and evacuation becomes unsafe. Once on the bridge, there is no quick exit. If conditions worsen, drivers must continue forward until reaching land. Lightning, wind, and heavy rain increase stress and reduce reaction time. Deception Pass Bridge, Washington, USA. Crossing Deception Pass Bridge means passing directly above one of the most dangerous tidal channels in Washington state. The bridge connects Whidbey Island and Fidalgo Island and stands roughly 180 feet above Deception Pass, a narrow stretch of water where Puget Sound meets the Strait of Juan de Fuca. The water below moves violently due to strong tidal exchanges, and currents here regularly reach speeds capable of overturning boats. As you approach the bridge, wind is almost always present. Air funnels through the narrow pass and accelerates as it moves between land masses. When stepping onto the pedestrian walkway or driving across the span, sudden gusts can push laterally with enough force to affect balance or steering. The railings along the walkway are low, offering no physical barrier against wind or the drop beyond. Fog is one of the most common dangers on this bridge. It can appear quickly without warning, especially during temperature changes between land and water. Visibility can drop to only a few feet. Pedestrians have reported being unable to see either end of the bridge while standing at the center. Drivers often reduce speed abruptly, which has led to rear-end collisions and traffic stoppages during heavy fog conditions. Below the bridge, the water remains dangerous regardless of surface appearance. Whirlpool formations and standing waves occur frequently. There have been multiple drownings in Deception Pass involving swimmers, kayakers, and boaters who underestimated the strength of the current. Once a person enters the water, rescue becomes extremely difficult. The current pulls bodies downward and carries them rapidly out of reach. Objects dropped from the bridge do not fall straight down. They are often pulled sideways by wind before hitting the water and then carried away immediately by the current. Recovery is not possible. This reinforces the understanding that falling from the bridge would leave no chance of survival. Lake Pontchartrain, Causeway, Louisiana, USA. Driving onto the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway involves committing to a crossing that lasts nearly 24 miles with no intermediate land access. Once several miles into the bridge, the shoreline disappears entirely. Drivers are surrounded by open water on both sides with only sky and lake visible. This lack of reference points can affect depth perception and orientation. The bridge sits low over Lake Pontchartrain. Guardrails are minimal, and there is no shoulder for emergency stops in many sections. During calm weather, the crossing feels routine, but weather changes can make conditions dangerous quickly. High winds travel freely across the lake due to its flat surface. Strong crosswinds affect vehicle stability, especially for trucks, vans, and motorcycles. Fog is a serious hazard on the causeway. Sudden fog banks can form over the lake, reducing visibility to a few car lengths. Multiple vehicle accidents have occurred during fog events when drivers failed to see stopped traffic ahead. Hurricanes pose the greatest threat. In 1969, Hurricane Camille caused major damage to sections of the bridge, forcing closures and extensive repairs. Storm surge and wave action stressed the structure and demonstrated the vulnerability of long, low bridges over open water. Since then, the bridge has been closed many times during tropical storms and hurricanes. Kakum Canopy Walk, Ghana. The Kakum Canopy Walk is a series of rope bridges suspended high above the rainforest floor in Kakum National Park in Ghana. The bridges reach heights of approximately 130 feet above the ground. Below is dense vegetation, uneven terrain, and no clear landing area. Each bridge is narrow, made of wooden planks supported by steel cables with rope handrails. When stepping onto the walkway, movement is immediate. The bridge sways with every step, and motion increases when multiple people are on it. Humidity is consistently high. After rainfall, the planks can become slippery. Visitors are instructed to wear proper footwear, but slips still occur. There have been incidents where visitors tripped and fell against the safety netting, sustaining minor injuries. Evacuating someone from the canopy level requires trained staff and careful coordination. The visual environment adds to difficulty. The dense canopy below hides the forest floor, making depth perception unreliable. Looking down does not provide a clear sense of distance, which can cause dizziness and hesitation. The bridges respond to movement. When one person stops, the structure continues to sway as others move. This has caused visitors to freeze mid-crossing. Staff members regularly assist individuals who are unable to continue due to fear or loss of balance. There have been strict limits placed on the number of people allowed on each bridge at one time to reduce stress on the structure and control movement. But despite these measures, the experience remains physically demanding. Vitim River Bridge, Siberia, Russia. Few places in the world make fear so immediate and physical as the Vitim River Bridge. The moment you set foot on its planks, the bridge seems to protest under your weight. The wood is aged, rotting in patches, and slippery with ice during winter. Each step produces a loud creak that echoes across the frozen river below, making you feel exposed to the elements and danger in equal measure. The gaps between the planks allow glimpses of the freezing waters far beneath, like a chilling reminder that a misstep could cost your life. Vehicles are even riskier. Locals say driving across requires nerves of steel. The wooden boards bend and flex, and during spring thaw, weakened beams can snap under weight. In one particular incident, a delivery truck partially fell through a plank while attempting to cross, leaving the driver stranded as the river rushed violently below. Rescue took hours because the bridge is far from civilization, surrounded by Siberia's harsh wilderness. Even when the weather is clear, the bridge sways slightly in the wind, making it feel as though it could collapse at any second. Snow and ice worsen the danger. Drivers and pedestrians alike report the boards becoming nearly invisible under thick snow, hiding deadly gaps. The isolation adds a psychological terror. There is no help nearby, no cell service, and no margin for error. Crossing it in winter means balancing carefully, every muscle tense, with the knowledge that a fall is certain death. Some locals avoid the bridge entirely, and travelers often describe a cold, paralyzing fear, almost like the bridge itself is alive, testing your resolve. Even summer crossings are far from safe. Rainwater rots the wood further, making the planks soft and unpredictable. A misjudged step can leave you plunging into the icy river, and strong gusts of wind threaten to knock even experienced drivers off balance. The Vitim River Bridge is not simply a crossing. It is a raw encounter with danger that leaves a lasting memory long after the icy waters fade from sight. Sunshine Skyway Bridge, Florida, USA. Crossing the Sunshine Skyway Bridge is an experience that forces you to confront both fear and history. The enormous structure stretches over Tampa Bay, and from the middle, the water below feels endless. The shadow of the 1980 disaster looms large. During a sudden storm, a freighter collided with the bridge, causing a massive section to collapse into the bay, killing 35 people. Cars and trucks plunged into the turbulent waters, and survivors recall the chaos of twisted metal and screaming engines. Even today, wind and weather create tension. Strong gusts can push vehicles dangerously close to the bridge's edge, and drivers often grip the wheel tightly, aware of the history beneath them. Heavy rain can obscure lane markers, and fog from the bay can suddenly reduce visibility to near zero. Some drivers report vertigo while crossing, a sensation that their vehicle is floating over the water. Nighttime is no safer. Reflections off the cables can disorient or create a false sense of width. Despite modern safety measures, the bridge remains psychologically challenging. Emergency closures happen during storms, and accidents still occur when drivers panic or misjudge their speed. The combination of height, exposure, wind, and tragic history makes each crossing a tense experience, and even locals admit a heightened awareness while driving across. Watching other cars disappear over the edge during a downpour reinforces just how fragile life can feel on this bridge. Eshima Ohashi Bridge, Japan. Driving toward the Eshima Ohashi Bridge, you can see its steep incline from a distance, and a sense of panic creeps in immediately. Unlike most bridges, it does not rise gradually. Instead, it climbs sharply, creating the illusion that cars will vanish into the sky. The slope alone is enough to make even experienced drivers hesitate and grip the wheel more tightly as they ascend. The bridge's incline makes every movement feel precarious. Vehicles feel weightless at the crest, and sudden gusts of wind can shift smaller cars sideways. There have been multiple incidents where nervous drivers braked suddenly on the slope, causing collisions or forcing emergency responders to carefully navigate the incline to assist. Rain worsens the danger. Water runs swiftly across the road, hiding slick patches that can make tires lose traction. Visibility can vanish entirely in mist rising from the lake below, leaving the road and horizon blending into one. The psychological effect is intense. The horizon disappears as you climb, replaced by sky, open water, and a steep drop that seems endless. Some cyclists and pedestrians report nausea or panic, and even local bus drivers admit to gripping the steering wheel for reassurance. At night, the slope remains terrifying, lit only by the dim glow of road lights. Every second on the bridge demands full attention, as any misjudgment could lead to sliding, collisions, or a loss of control. Millau Viaduct, France. The Millau Viaduct rises above a valley in southern France like a giant hovering in the clouds. From the ground, it is breathtaking, but crossing it produces a sense of vertigo few structures can replicate. The roadway towers hundreds of meters above the valley, and the wind at this height is fierce. Even vehicles with experienced drivers can be nudged dangerously sideways by strong gusts, making the bridge feel unstable despite its engineering. Weather adds to the terror. Rain and fog can reduce visibility to near zero, and the deck becomes slippery even in light rain. There have been multiple minor accidents caused by skidding or sudden gusts pushing vehicles toward barriers. Trucks and buses must cross with extreme caution, and authorities sometimes close the bridge during storms or high wind. The combination of height, exposure, and wind can create panic, and even drivers who cross daily report a white-knuckled tension, gripping the wheel as though their life depends on it. The psychological effect is relentless. Clouds often obscure the valley below, giving the impression that the deck is floating in midair. Pedestrians on observation points report dizziness and nausea from the overwhelming height. At night, lights illuminate the bridge, but the sensation of hovering hundreds of meters above the ground does not lessen. Crossing the Millau Viaduct is not merely a commute, it is an encounter with fear itself. Zhangjiajie Glass Bridge, China. Walking across the Zhangjiajie Glass Bridge in China is like stepping onto the edge of the world with nothing to hold on to but your own nerves. The bridge is suspended almost 1,000 feet above the canyon floor, and every step is a challenge because the glass beneath you makes the drop impossible to ignore. Your eyes are drawn down through the transparent panels to the dizzying void below, where mist often drifts in and out, creating the illusion that you are floating in midair. Many visitors say that the sensation of looking straight down while moving forward is so intense that even the most fearless among them freeze in place, unable to take another step. Since opening in 2016, the bridge has drawn thrill seekers from around the world, but it has also become infamous for the sheer panic it induces. Despite being built with reinforced steel and triple-layered tempered glass capable of holding hundreds of people, logic does little to calm the body when the brain perceives that there is nothing supporting it. Visitors have reported knees buckling, hands shaking uncontrollably, and sudden waves of vertigo that make them question whether moving forward is even possible. The swaying of the bridge underfoot adds to the terror. On windy days, the entire structure can feel like it is floating, the suspension cables humming and vibrating under the strain, heightening the sense that you are balancing on air. Some daredevils have attempted to push the fear further. Swings are mounted beneath the bridge, offering the option of dangling over the abyss while tethered by ropes. These swings, designed for safety, look and feel like a death sentence to anyone standing on the glass floor, forcing the mind to confront a terrifying what-if scenario. There are also plans to install one of the highest bungee jumps in the world, a prospect that excites some but terrifies most visitors who already struggle to breathe as they look down through the glass. The bridge has witnessed numerous incidents since it opened. Videos circulate online showing people frozen mid-step, unable to move while panic overtakes them. In some cases, visitors have had to be guided off by staff after fainting from sheer fright. One report even told of a group of tourists who screamed in unison as a sudden gust of wind caused the bridge to sway more than expected, their feet gripping the transparent panels as though trying to root themselves to solid ground. Even experienced climbers and travelers who are used to heights find themselves shaken. The combination of visual exposure, extreme height, and the faint but constant movement of the bridge creates a terror that no safety engineering can erase. Standing there with your heartbeat echoing in your ears and the vast canyon stretching below, you feel your mind wrestling with the undeniable truth that your body is entirely suspended over nothing, and your next step could be the hardest one you've ever taken. Peak Walk, Swiss Alps. Crossing the Peak Walk in the Swiss Alps is not just an adventure. It is a confrontation with the raw forces of nature that leave your body tense and your mind questioning every step. Unlike ordinary bridges, this one connects two mountain peaks directly at nearly 10,000 feet above sea level. From the moment you step onto the narrow path, just over 2 feet wide, the air feels thinner, colder, and less forgiving. Every movement matters, because a slip here does not lead to a shallow river or soft grass, but to open alpine air that drops hundreds of feet immediately below. The bridge forces visitors into single-file movement, and the constant awareness of exposure is overwhelming. The steel cables that support the bridge are strong enough to withstand hurricane-force winds and extreme temperatures. But standing there, with your feet planted on partially transparent panels, you can feel the bridge respond to even the slightest gust of wind. Sudden squalls whip across the peaks, pushing the bridge from side to side, making it sway violently while visibility disappears in the fog. Many hikers freeze mid-crossing, gripping the cables and staring down through the glass flooring into a void that seems to stretch endlessly. Fear on the peak walk is intensified by the unpredictability of the mountains. On sunny days, the view is breathtaking, offering glimpses of Mont Blanc, the Matterhorn, and the Eiger. But when fog rolls in or snowflakes begin to fall, the same view transforms into a white abyss. Stories of terrified hikers paralyzed by vertigo abound. One incident involved a group of tourists who, caught in a sudden snowstorm, refused to move for nearly an hour, clinging to the bridge as staff guided rescuers carefully to help them across. Another involved a strong wind knocking a hat from a tourist's head, which sent her into a panic attack, until a fellow hiker steadied her with a hand on her shoulder. Even for those accustomed to heights, the bridge exacts a toll. The combination of altitude, exposure, and constant swaying can trigger nausea, shaking, and heart palpitations. Crossing is not just about balance, but about mental endurance. You are forced to make a continuous decision to move forward despite the terror, and each step can feel as though it might be your last if you falter. Mousashi Vine Bridge, Japan. The Mousashi Vine Bridge in Japan is not a tourist attraction for the faint-hearted. Hidden deep in the mountains, it seems to have been forgotten by time and embraced by nature, and crossing it feels like stepping into a place that exists outside of modern safety standards. The bridge is composed of thin vines, wooden planks, and minimal cables, creating an unsettling wobble beneath your feet that makes every step feel as though it could be your last. The gaps between the planks reveal the forest floor far below, a dizzying view that magnifies the fear of falling. Even a single misstep can lead to disaster, and with no nearby rescue infrastructure, danger is real and immediate. Built in the 1950s, the bridge has been minimally maintained, which is part of what makes it terrifying. The vines groan and strain under weight, and travelers report feeling the entire structure shift and sag as they cross. Rain and wind make it even more treacherous, as the wood becomes slippery and the vines slick. Those who attempt the crossing must rely on handrails that are little more than twisted ropes, sometimes fraying and threatening to give way at the worst possible moment. Stories of people nearly losing their footing are common, and there have been reports of visitors clinging to the ropes in panic, legs trembling, unable to continue. The approach to the bridge is another ordeal. Reaching it requires navigating steep, uneven terrain with the aid of chains attached to the rock, demanding focus and strength before the real test even begins. For many, arriving at the bridge itself is a relief, only to discover that crossing it may be more frightening than the climb. Unlike modern bridges with staff or crowds for reassurance, here you are alone with your fear, the forest silent except for the wind and the groan of vines underfoot. Several incidents have made the Mousashi Vine Bridge infamous. Travelers have slipped and injured themselves on the moss-covered planks, and others have frozen mid-crossing, too afraid to continue. One documented case involved a group of hikers who had to send one member back down to avoid an accident when she panicked halfway across, unable to move. Even those who are experienced climbers describe a sense of dread, a creeping fear that the bridge is not entirely trustworthy, and the thought that help could be hours away keeps every nerve on edge. The Mousashi Vine Bridge does not scare with height alone or engineering failures. It terrifies visitors because it is a reminder that even in the modern world, some structures remain wild, unpredictable, and completely dependent on your own nerve and caution.